Hey, it's your friendly podcaster, BJ of Chew on This and Nerds United podcast. And every month we're growing, and it's because of loyal listeners like you guys. So tell your friends to check us out on iTunes or Google Play or YouTube. We would love to have your reviews and comments, and you can also subscribe to our Facebook page for content. Plus, you can check out our Twitter and our Instagram at Chew on This Pod. And you can even send us an email if you want to at chewonthispodcast@gmail.com. So we'd love to hear from you and enjoy this week's episode of Chew on This. Welcome to episode 60 of Chew on This, a Nerds United podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic. So by the time this airs, it'll be Monday, and it'll be Christmas, or Christmas will just pass. So
Yeah.
happy holidays, everyone. Hope you enjoyed your holiday weekend, and this is what the first day of this will be the first day of Hanukkah too, right?
Yes, I'll be celebrating the whole week. This is like the first time in a really long time. It's this late in the month, but yeah, it's going to go all the way through January actually. So,
Oh yeah.
but
So hope everybody had a good weekend. What do you got there, BJ?
well, same here. Hope you guys had a good holiday, and we have some really special things coming up on our podcast. We have our 1 year anniversary show. It's going to drop on January 9th, but before that, we're going to be on Good Day Sacramento on January 7th at 8 a.m. That's Good Day Sacramento. It's a morning show with Cody Stark. Totally stoked, but we're going to be promoting our podcast and talking with Cody for a little bit. So don't miss that. I think we'll have one more chance to tell you all to say this again. But anyway, happy holidays, and January 7th is our 1 year anniversary podcast, which I'm totally stoked. It's going to be awesome.
So
But
this is our last podcast of the year, of this year, and we're gonna end it with our top 10 best movies of 2016, and try to go back to the list we had at the beginning of the year of our most anticipated.
yes.
So this is a summary of 2016 movies. You want to do yours first? You want me to go first?
Do you want me to do my most? You wanted me to go back and do my most anticipated list, or do you want to hear what my list is now?
Why don't you just read quickly what your most anticipated
Okay,
was? Don't talk about them. Just
gotcha.
list them.
Okay, so back in January, we did our most anticipated movies of 2016, and these are mine. This was mine list. Number 10, Finding Dory. Number 9, The BFG. Number 8, The Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Number 7, Jungle Book. Number 6, Batman v Superman. Fuck you. Number 5, Star Trek Beyond. Number 4, Doctor Strange. Number 3, Deadpool. Pegging. Pegging was awesome. Number 2, Captain America Civil War. And number 1 was Rogue One. So, this is my final tally, my top 10 list now that we're at the end of the year, and it goes as such. Okay? So, number 10, I still have Finding Dory. Number 9, I have Star Trek Beyond. Number 8, I have actually a new movie in there. I have Arrival. Number 7, Jungle Book. Number 6, Doctor Strange. Number 5, Deadpool. Number 4, I have Moana. Number 3, I have Zootopia. And then the top 2 are pretty much it's the same. Captain America and number 1, Rogue One.
Okay, so not too much of a change for you at all. Mine's
Not
all
not
over the
yeah,
place.
yeah, not too much.
All right, so let me do my most anticipated, then I'll go through my best.
All right.
So number 9 for me was Ghostbusters. I'm sorry, number 10 was number 10 was Star Trek. Number 9 was Ghostbusters.
Hmm.
7's Independence Day. 6 was The Jungle Book. 5 was Batman v Superman. Wait, I'm missing numbers here.
You can
It's
omit
Star
that
Trek,
out.
Ghostbusters, Independence Day, The Jungle Book, Batman v Superman. 4, 5. Number 5 is X-Men.
Hmm.
Number 4 is Doctor Strange. Oh, you know what? I left on here the I when I copied this over for notes for today. We actually did notes. Can you believe that? And then I still screwed it up. Anyway, the two on here that weren't actually on the top 10 were Ghostbusters and Star Trek. I just forgot to separate them.
Yeah.
So basically, if I'll just fucking do the list again. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so it was Ghostbusters, Independence Day, Jungle Book, Batman v Superman, X-Men, Doctor Strange. Number 4 is Deadpool. Number 3 was Rogue One. 2, Captain America. And number 1 was Finding Dory for me.
That's right. We had those switched. I forgot. I remember that.
So let's see. So my top 10 of the year.
Hmm.
Number 10 is Star Trek. Number 9, Doctor Strange. Number 8, The Jungle Book. 7, Finding Dory. 6, Deadpool. 5. Am I on 5? Yeah, 5, Civil War. 4, Rogue One. 3, Moana. 2, Arrival, and 1, Zootopia.
Oh, okay. Cool. So we have just a
So
slightly different. We actually had the same movies, just slightly different. The way we
I
rated
did
them.
not have Fantastic Beasts.
Well, no, I don't have that on my final list.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Ours is pretty much the
Okay.
same, just same movies, but just they're moved around a little bit.
Yeah,
So
especially our top 5.
yeah, top 5 big time. Well, let's just real quick. I mean, well, maybe it's not really quick, but so my number 10 was Finding Dory, and for you that was a
Star
really
Trek.
yeah, it was Star Trek. So just start with Dory. Basically that movie for you, I remember it had some really special meaning, Finding Nemo, and so that's why it was really really high for nostalgia reasons and things like that. And but it ended up actually being a pretty decent movie. Um, I just thought I don't know. I think I'm looking for more original things now. Even though some of the stuff I have on my top 10 before was like sequels and whatnot, uh, but as far as like sequels go for Pixar, it was high up there. I mean, I did enjoy it, but
Yeah, there's really not like we said before in the review. There's really nothing wrong with this movie.
no.
It just didn't make us cry like little girls. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it just didn't make us cry. And that was the most amazing part of that review was that I couldn't like even though I think I gave it 4.5 or 5 stars. I didn't love it because it didn't like break me up and kill me inside.
I like how we complain. We like to be broken down in our movies.
Well, that's how good Pixar is, right? And that's how good Finding Nemo was. Like you were, no matter how old you were. Well, actually, the only people that wouldn't understand the emotional value to it would be anybody who it was like geared towards, like 5-year-olds or whatever. But if you were cognizant, if you're old enough to be cognizant of your emotions and you didn't cry in like Toy Story 3 or Finding Nemo or um,
Then you're a
what's
piece of
another
shit.
one? Yeah, exactly. You're dead inside. The beginning of Up,
You're a
especially.
robot. You're from Westworld.
So yeah, yeah. So I had Dory higher than you. I had it at 7. I had it at 7.
Okay.
Because when I was doing this list, I was thinking, you know what? My initial reaction to it was like I just said, it didn't make me cry, and that bothered me.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But
But
when I really thought about this list, I was like, you know what? There's really nothing wrong with that movie.
no, it's very entertaining.
I mean, it's rated really high. It follows one of the best movies ever made. And so when I was looking at the list, I was like, you know what? That was a pretty good movie. It was just that I was expecting to be weeping when I left the theater, like something different. Like my expectations were put on it in a different way. Like it's one thing to put like good expectations, like hoping like some movie's good and then it's just absolute shit. But my expectation of it was unrealistic and retarded that I wanted to cry.
Well, I mean, but you also have to think that they had. We'll get to those movies in a minute, but there was two other movies that were just better, and they did just that, and but they also had other things in it that made them, I guess transcend their animation even. They were just
Yeah, I
better.
mean, I mean, there was some kind of morale to you know some kind of Aesop's fable or tale to Finding Dory. But I thought it was better than these other movies that I had on the list. So I had Star Trek at 10. Where did you have Star
I
Trek?
I have that at 9, and that movie was really, I was really happy with that movie because the second movie, it lacked any kind of heart. It didn't. I mean, yeah, I mean there was dire situation. It's kind of the Empire Strikes Back of the trilogy or whatever, if you want to call it that. But it just, I like that Star Trek Beyond got back to being Star Trek, and it was
Yeah.
really entertaining. And Simon Pegg, co-wrote it, and it shows. And I hear that he's actually co-writing the next one, so I'm pretty excited about that. Um,
I liked it. I liked it a lot too. I just for me, I just had it at 10. I mean, we're not far apart from that movie at all. I think we were pretty much dead on when we reviewed it too. So,
mhm.
I mean, you had it at 9, I had it at 10. So there's really not much to discuss the difference of placement for that one.
Yeah.
What did you have at
So at
8?
at number 8, so Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, I had that before, but I took it off my list. I have, so in its place I put Arrival, and Arrival was kind of like one of those really just came out of nowhere type movies. I mean, if I were to see, if I would have saw that on the schedule months ago, I'd have no idea still what it was. I mean, it just kind of came out of nowhere. Um, I had, I was kind of going back and forth between like Cloverfield Lane, because that was another movie that just popped out of nowhere, and so
Right.
but that's still kind of outside the list. It's just not good enough. But Arrival, it probably could have gone higher, but I just liked some of these other movies a little bit more. But it made the list, and
So
it's
that's a
good.
big difference. That's one
Yeah,
of our biggest differences
yeah,
is you have it at what was that?
8,
8,
yeah,
and I have it all the way at uh fuck, I have it all the way at 2.
at 2.
So
Wow,
that's a yeah, I had
that's
it
a big
I and
discrepancy. Yeah.
yeah, it's big. And I think for me again when I was sitting down on this lit like thinking about this list, what blew me away about Arrival it was like different and original. It wasn't a sequel.
It
It
made you
wasn't
cry.
something did it make me cry?
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
I don't know if
It
it made
made you
well,
feel
maybe it made me
something.
tear up. Yeah, well, it made me think. I mean, this movie is definitely a
Oh
thinking
yeah,
movie when you're done with it.
yeah,
So I think that was why I had it so high because it just came out like you said, it came out of nowhere. The premise of the movie, you think you're going in to see some sci-fi alien invasion movie, and it's really not. And it completely blew me away with the ending. It's one of the it was really close to being my number one.
wow,
It was really really close, and those for those two reasons, that's why I had it so high because it was original material to us. You know, it wasn't a prequel, a sequel, or a different comic book,
absolutely.
or something like that. So that's why I had it so high because it was not only did it wasn't one of those things, it was also, uh, different. I had never seen it, and I was blown away at the end of it.
Yeah, and I don't get really tricked most of the time when I go to the movies anymore, and that really it got me. Really, just the way it was filmed was just really. I thought like Christopher Nolan directed it or something, because like it was just so it has that kind of tone or whatever that he usually does in his movies, and it's really really well done though. Like to see more from that director and whatnot. What did you have for number 7?
That's where I had Finding Dory.
Aha. So I had Jungle Book there. And
Okay,
did Jungle Book make your
my
list?
jung my yeah, my Jungle Book was at 10 8.
Oh, okay. So
So
just back a little bit. Yeah. So
yeah,
so
not a big deal there.
no, it's and so for Jungle Book, you know, that was kind of like this foray into this whole new world of like now we're gonna see CGI animals like crazy and environments that look so freaking real. Because like I don't think there was probably more green screen on that than probably in Star Wars, but yet it looks so goddamn real. And
Yeah.
and now John Favreau is gonna dive into Lion King, which makes sense, but at the same time I'm very leery about because that is it's that's like near perfection too. It's we already have Beauty and the
Even though it might have been stolen from a Japanese
yeah,
movie.
yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, that's very true. Most people don't know that though.
Oh yeah,
Um,
really quick side note why I said that.
yeah,
There's a Japanese movie called something similar to that. It's not called The Lion King. It's called something different. But basically, it's a white tiger this time, or a lion, or something like that. A white tiger or a lion. And that Japanese cartoon came out like 2 or 3 years before The Lion King started,
played
or
by
came out, I should
played
say.
by Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, or
uh,
Tilda Swinton.
the uh, so yeah, so that movie was. I mean, I like the cartoon. The cartoon was really goofy and whatnot, and I
Oh, the
thought
movie's so much better.
it's so fantastic. I mean, and they changed the little things here and there and made it actually better for me. So that was a big achievement, especially after like Life of Pi and stuff like that. So now
So
they can really do whatever they want.
number 6, I have Deadpool. What do you have at 6?
I have Doctor Strange.
Okay,
Deadpool.
my Doctor Strange is at 9.
Oh, okay, okay, that's not bad. Um, so Deadpool was uh, was a big surprise, but at the same time, you know, we knew like early on that when we saw that footage that movie is going to be really really good. I just didn't know how good it was going to be because I laughed all the way through that movie. I was so entertained. The ending was really kind of felt tacked on to me, but whatever. They needed some big set piece like they usually do, which I hope they don't do that in the next movie. I think that was the only flaw I thought that movie had was the ending. But other than
Yeah,
that,
me too.
it's fantastic. That movie's so freaking funny, and they actually found a way to bring in a couple other X-Men and like who nobody really cares about, well, except for maybe the silver guy. But uh, what the hell is his name again?
Colossus.
Colossus. Yeah, yeah. But I loved Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead, whatever her name was. They were a good addition. But what did you think?
But you had that at 9, right? You said you had that at 9.
I had no, I had Deadpool like 3 before, and now I have him at number 5. And I have Doctor Strange
5.
at
Okay.
6, which we'll talk about in a second. But what did you
Okay.
think? I mean,
So
ultimately, like Deadpool, what did you think? Like when you came out of that movie, were like, "That's exactly what I paid for," or did you feel like it was better than that, than what you expected?
so so there's a lot of things that there's. let me- I'm trying to think right off the top of my head because none of this obviously is predetermined, as you can tell by our preparation. But thinking about somebody who portrays a comic book character, right? You've always read comic book characters in your mind, and sometimes you can inject like Tobey Maguire or even Andrew Garfield sometimes, but it kind of never really happens, right?
Yeah.
And even other incarnations of it, like for Harry Potter. Every time I read Harry Potter now, those kids are it.
Yep.
Snape is Alan Rickman, right? When I read Thor and when I read um, these other like Batman, I don't picture Christian Bale as Batman, right? I don't really picture even Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Like Thor is he's different in the comic books.
Right.
There's been there's been a few characters that even Chris Evans, as good as Chris Evans is, I don't picture Chris Evans reading these lines when I'm reading like the Civil War that's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't picture Chris Evans. I can picture Tony Stark, right? I can picture Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. That was near like that when he got that role. I was like, oh, that's a good choice. And then he just became. That's who I picture Tony Stark to be in real
Yes.
life, right? Same thing with this kid Tom Holland. I was like, oh my god, there's just something different about. He looks like a kid. That's who I pictured Peter Parker to be.
Yes.
Something like that. In the small amount of footage, I mean, the movie could just suck, but from the clips that I've seen, he's a kid, right? And he acts like a kid. He's got that Brooklyn, he's got that Queens accent down, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's who I picture in the short amount of time that I've seen him. The other person is Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. That is fucking Deadpool.
Yeah.
Like when I pictured reading comic books in my mind, obviously I didn't picture Ryan Reynolds, but I had this like vision of what he would sound like when he was saying this shit, you know, the
Mm.
crazy shit, breaking the fourth wall. Ryan Reynolds is that. And that was the closest in a long time that I've gone to a comic book movie that I haven't seen the characters before, where I came out, I was like, holy shit, that's Deadpool.
Yeah.
Like that's what I pictured.
They nailed it. And now I'm a little worried about the sequel now because like everyone's bailed from it practically. And they still don't have the cast nailed down and it's supposed to film in a couple of months. So I don't
Yeah.
know
Well,
what
it's
the hell
such a
they're going to do.
small movie. It's supposed to be a smaller movie, so we'll see what happens with the changes that they're making between the director and the script. Also, apparently, might not be done. But anyway,
Yeah.
so let's see.
So
You had I
Doctor
had
Strange we had
is your what?
Doctor Strange is my number 6. You have it higher,
Okay.
right? Like 8 or something like
No, I
that.
had it low. I had it 9
Oh, nine,
lower.
9. So, what did you I mean, I loved I loved that movie. I think I when I went and saw it a second time though, I noticed I guess some, some flaws and whatnot, like the ending. Again, like Marvel hasn't for whatever reason, they just haven't gotten the bad guy right just yet and they haven't nailed their landing in an ending. I think
Right.
Avengers was pretty close, but they just haven't. Like, I'm really looking forward to Infinity War. I hope they finally get it right. But like even like Age of Ultron was just so all over the place. Again,
Yeah, that's the one thing about Loki is the closest to like the perfect villain that Marvel has right now.
yeah,
Um, the problem watching these films is that there's no dire situation. You just know they're going to win somehow. Even with Ultron, it was the same way. Obviously they're always going to win, but they're, but when you're watching like say The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger's Joker, like subconsciously you knew Batman was going to win or do something or win out at the end somehow,
hmm,
But there's scenes in there where it's so goddamn creepy and you're so engulfed in the scene that you don't think he's going to get out of it. You don't know what he's going to do. And I feel like Loki has this thing about him that he obviously nails doing, but a lot of the other villains don't work out that great. Like Jebediah in Iron Man, the first one, as good as that first film is,
uh,
that whole end scene was just terrible. That whole
yeah,
fight was just terrible.
yeah,
The first X Men still holds up today, but that whole ending with the big light show at the end of the movie was
hmm,
just not necessary.
no.
You know,
Oh, and the worst like line in a comic book movie by Storm about the lightning and the
yeah,
frog. That was so bad.
where she comes in and out of African accent every fifth
Right.
word.
Yeah. Logan, come fight with us. Come on. Come on, man.
Yeah.
No. Anyway.
Yeah, so I had Doctor Strange at you had it much higher. The reasons I have it at 9 were just what you mentioned.
Yeah.
The villain wasn't great. There's points where the special effects was just really hokey at the end, where I knew he had to go into that realm, but it just was so much special effects. Um, I mean, they still pulled it off, but it was just not. It was there was a lot of cool things to see in this. Um, Benedict Cumberbatch really good, but I think at the end of the day, I liked a lot more movies than that. And the reason I think I don't even know why I have that at 9 and not 10, where I have Star Trek at 10, because I think I might have enjoyed Star Trek a little bit more than Doctor Strange.
That's very possible. Maybe you have it higher because it's new, but
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know
they're
what I was
both
thinking.
entertaining. I'd say they're both neck and neck as far as entertainment goes. Just shut off your mind and watch something. So, it's not like I could see why you have a rival so high now because you thought, you know what, just besides entertainment value, it made you think and it was something fresh and new. Um, so I mean that makes sense. Um, what did you
What was
have?
your 5?
Oh, 5 was Deadpool, and then which we just talked about. Number 4, I have Moana, which we gushed
I have
for over an
Civil
hour.
War at 5.
Okay, yeah.
I have Civil War at 5.
So, well, which one do you want to talk about, Moana or Captain America?
Let's do Captain America first because we just recorded Moana. So
Okay, well, Captain America, I had that at number. I didn't move my number 2. And the reason is, I think that movie, besides number 1, my number 1 movie, I was probably the most entertained. Like I got so giddy and jumping out of my seat and going, holy shit, all those moments. Those were the 2 biggest reasons why, like, I had that at number 2. I got to see stuff I haven't seen before, and plus the addition of Black Panther and Spider-Man finally entering the Marvel universe. Just put that movie over the top for me. I just enjoyed that so much. Now, like, having gone back and watching it multiple times, it kind of loses its luster a little bit, but that 17-minute scene is still one of the best that I've seen, like, all year.
and that doesn't even get it gets even better after that.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
How are they going to top this, hero on hero like showdown? And they fucking do with only 3 people.
Yeah.
Like they actually do. Like it's crazy. It's not Empire Strikes Back, but it's like it's pretty impressive because and the reason why I mention Empire is because don't forget in Empire the giant fucking battle is in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
That's the big battle is in the beginning of the movie. Now think about how many movies do you know start with a giant battle
They
and
just
then
blow
pull
their
all
wad
the
in
way
the
back.
beginning. Yeah.
So Civil War does it in a way where holy shit, I can't believe I just saw that giant fight. I can't believe Spider-Man, I can't believe Giant Man, all this fucking crazy shit. Well, 10 minutes from then, something even better happens.
Yeah.
Like that the whole last quarter of that movie is edge of your seat nonstop holy shit moments.
Yeah.
But having said that, I have it at 5 and as you can like you said you've already figured out why my list is the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Civil War is a fantastic fucking movie. It's a great movie. It's probably the top 3 in the top 3 best superhero movies I've ever seen.
Yes.
Um,
I agree.
but I have it down here at 5 because I had seen almost all those characters again, and that's such a bullshit nitpick, and that's the only reason I really have it down here at 5.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Because these other movies, the next 4 that I have, Rogue One, Moana, Arrival, Zootopia, I had not seen every single one of those movies is something that I'd never seen before. All of it.
Yes.
Yes, Rogue One is Star Wars, but I've never seen it like that, told like that. I mean, it's it's dark and fantastic. It's right underneath as far as darkness goes or this dire situation goes in movies, right under Empire.
So I have
Above
a
Revenge of
question.
the Sith.
So I was just gonna say I have a question for you. How would you rank all 8 Star Wars movies? Like if you had to, someone put a gun to your head right now, what would
So
you?
is this like Inception ranking within a ranking?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. No, exactly. So how?
I don't- well, I know my top. I'll just do my top 3. It's going to be Empire.
Hmm.
It's going to be A New Hope, and it's going to be Force Awakens, and
Hmm.
then Rogue One is right outside of that.
Oh, okay. So my difference. I mean, I have Rogue One slightly higher than Force Awakens, just slightly, and most of that has to do with the fact that I saw that movie in theaters. I saw New Hope, and going into and I've seen it so many, probably more times than any movie I've ever seen. You know, ever. Like I've seen it probably 1,000 times, and watching Rogue One was like that. Just I felt like that little kid again in the theater. I saw shit that I hadn't seen in years, and it just was so amazing that what they did and how they kind of answered a lot of questions that people had for 40 years. They were able to answer. And like the exhaust port, that was the biggest one because I always felt How stupid. Why would they put that there?
Right.
And they answered that beautifully. Like I sit there, I watched that scene, I was like, that's fucking awesome. And they had some fan service and whatnot, and it's not a ton. Like he could have went overboard and he didn't. He held back. But it was a war movie, dude. They put the war back in Star Wars.
Right.
It was a gritty war movie, and we talked about that for months. How they got people in place that did war movies before this, like the cinematographer and so on and so forth. Biggest gripe, probably the music. We talked all about that stuff, but for me, I think that's why I have it at number one. It's mostly like never seen this before and big time nostalgic. Big time like bringing me back to a time. I mean, complete opposite of what George Lucas did with the prequels, where everyone, they use that term rape pretty loosely. I don't like when they say, "Oh, I raped my childhood." I don't like that, but he did kind of mess things up for me in that respect. And so Rogue One for me brought, like, J.J. Abrams, kind of brought Star Wars back in a big bad way, but Rogue One just like put the nail in the coffin, just totally sealed it. Now we're looking at Rian Johnson and Colin, what's his name, to bring it home. So we'll see.
You have that at 1. So what's your 4?
So number 4, I have Moana, which was such a surprise.
4 was my Rogue One.
Yes, and you have it at number 3, right?
Moana's number 3. Yeah.
Yeah, what a surprise that was. I was really delighted. Like Disney animation for me, like back in the day, I loved Little Mermaid and Aladdin and all that stuff. And then when they started making CGI movies, they were okay. Like they started with Dinosaur and I think another one, but then they did Tangled. And while that's not really my demographic, I actually was very entertained with that movie. It wasn't great, but it was a good start. But this year they just fucking killed it. I mean, with both their movies, and like we said, dare I say, I think it was better than Pixar. I really think they have finally kind of reached a level where I'm like, all right, sweet. Like, because I love you go to a Pixar movie, you're going to get an awesome movie. And
unless it's Cars.
right. And I have to defend Cars 1 a little bit because I did enjoy that movie. It was the first movie I ever took my son to, so I have nostalgic reasons for that. But I actually didn't find that movie that bad. The second one is horrible, and the third one I'm not. While I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh my god, this could be awesome, I'm still very skeptical. But whatever. Moana was such a delight. It was such a delight. Like, it had a really lot of good messages and things about it, but it also was extremely entertaining. And fucking The Rock can't do anything wrong. That dude is just like crazy good.
Yeah. If you hated The Rock before, you're probably gonna hate him even more now.
Yeah. It makes me want him to do more.
With that movie.
No.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that movie. It's original. I love the music from that movie. I unfortunately have to listen to it every day in the car. But it's fun music. Whereas like Frozen was like, Jesus Christ, it's on the radio. It's on, I got to listen to it all the time. Here, it wasn't something that spoke to me. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
the song that didn't speak to me. But like the songs that are sung in Moana, they're kind of they're general. They're like they could be for a broader audience, not just for her.
Right.
And You're Welcome is just a fun song.
Yeah, it is. I love that song. That's my favorite part.
So I have Arrival at number 2, which we already talked about. You have what at number 2?
Captain America.
Okay,
and
we talked about that. And then my number 1 is Zootopia.
Yeah, and that's at number 3 for me. And that was one I think that didn't appear on our list at all, like in the beginning.
No, we saw it way after it came out.
Yeah, and just real quick, when I saw the poster, and I think I saw even a trailer for it, and I didn't rush out to go watch that movie. Like
I actually thought Life of Pets would be better.
Yeah,
coming out.
Yeah, The Secret Life of Pets. That's right, which came out like 3 or 4 months afterward, and that had a trailer
yeah, that was star-studded too. That was really, Louis C.K. is the voice of the dog.
Yeah, and that trailer
So
was
there,
was so catchy and good that I
yeah.
mean people flocked to go watch that movie. But Zootopia
But
was such a
little did we
surprise.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah, little did we know the movie that. Yeah, I had the same reaction to you. I was like, that Zootopia movie doesn't look good at all. And then they released the trailer for Secret Life of Pets. I was like, oh, that's the funny one. I can't wait to see that one. And then I would have never saw it. I would have never saw it if my
Rot.
daughter didn't want to go see it.
Well, and Rotten Tomatoes had it rated very, very high.
98 or 99
Yeah,
for
it was
weeks.
probably the best, one of the best reviewed movies of the year.
It's
Um,
not a musical, so it's not like Moana. Um, it's just a straight up cartoon. It's actually got a good cop drama in it, but the messaging in that movie is so sometimes subtle, other times in your face. But for a kid, subconsciously, like my daughter got it at 4 years old.
hmm
She understood right away at 4 years old that like she caught me watching The Walking Dead one time. She wanted to know why one of the zombies was hurt. She thought a person looked like that. She didn't get it that was like a fucking Walking Dead corpse. She thought somebody got like a boo boo, right? But she walked out of Zootopia, um, and got it. She said to me in the car, she's like, "I want to be a cop because I can be anything I want to be." And I was like, "Oh my god,
That's
that's
put that right
amazing!"
on the fucking poster, dude. That's pretty awesome.
Right?
Yeah,
So, to me, that was a near perfect movie for what it was. It was just a really great movie, and for me, I think there's talk that they're going to do a sequel,
hmm
but I mean, you want to see, like, as a kid, you want to see more adventures of Nick Wilde and Judy Hopps, but the messaging in that movie is perfect.
it is, and it kind of makes me worried for a sequel. I mean, it makes sense because it was one of the top money makers of the year. Um,
Huge legs too.
yeah, yeah, and huge on video, and I think it's on was it on Netflix? I mean, it's all over the place right now. You can watch it anywhere. It was such a surprise. But it does make me a little worried for a sequel because this one nailed all the messages. Like beyond and above being a buddy cop movie, it did have like a lot of messages on diversity and
It was funny
gender
too.
roles, and it was funny. So now to have like a sequel, it's like, well, I guess you can try. I hope they try to expand upon some of those, the gender and the diversity and yeah, but probably the one of the funniest and best scenes of the year was in the DMV with the sloths. That was that was the one when they actually released that scene in theaters. That's what made me want to go watch it. And then when the Rotten Tomatoes rating came out, that's what made me really want to go see it. So, but yeah, that was one of the best scenes of the year for sure. And then the ending was really good with the sloth too. That was a really funny ending. But
It kind of hit it home too. Subconsciously, it hit it home.
it did. It did. It
Like
was ridiculous.
where
That
don't judge a book by its cover. The sloth is the one that's the notorious street racer.
yeah, it's that movie's like you said. It's got so many good messages. You could be whoever you want to be. It doesn't matter what gender, what race, and all that stuff. And one just real quick, but one of the best things about that movie that I love that made me laugh out loud is when he says to her, he's like, "Oh, you're so cute," and she's like, "No, no, 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 you don't get to say that." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool." I was like, "Oh wow, these writers got it, so smart." But
So
man, that's our
that
list.
was our top 10.
Yeah.
But let's go. Did you
Do
have any
you,
honorable mentions?
um, not really. I mean, I had the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them early on in my list, but that movie wasn't as good as I had hoped. So I don't know. I I could tell you what my worst picks are. I don't know if you wrote
Well,
any of those
well,
down,
let me
but
just mention my honorable mentions were like Fantastic Beasts and Ghostbusters were right outside of that.
okay.
Um, but the difference between Star Trek and Ghostbusters and Star Trek and Fantastic Beasts were pretty big, so that's why they were
Yeah,
like
yeah,
honorable
it makes
mention.
sense.
Um,
That makes sense.
so here's my top 5 worst movies in no particular order.
Okay.
Because even writing this list pissed me off. Like, I'm not
Me
even
too.
kidding. As I'm writing this list, I'm like, fuck this shit, fuck this, screw that, and I can't believe you fucking made this movie.
I can't believe I paid money for this
So
movie.
yeah, so one of the biggest disappointments of the year for me was X-Men. That's on my list for one of
Yes,
the worst movies I saw this year.
I agree.
Um, it had everything going for him, but right from the like, it had Bryan Singer. You know, you were gonna see Olivia Munn in it with first indication of Psylocke, but those early pictures of Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse just didn't seem right.
No,
And
I knew it was
he's
in
a
trouble.
fantastic actor, but right from the beginning, something just seemed wrong. So that was it. It's on one of the worst movies I've seen, but it's not the worst movie I've seen by far. It's
Hmm.
definitely one of my biggest disappointments of the year.
Yes,
Um, Independence Day was on my top 10 list for most anticipated, but it also was one of the worst movies I saw.
yes.
Like, there's nothing, there's just like, yeah, they're pretty diverse in it, but I don't give a shit. The movie sucked.
No,
Like, it was just
they
bad.
took the original concept and they just tried to do something. I don't know. They didn't stick to the formula. They did a lot of weird shit, and in the
You
end,
could have had you could
yeah.
have Jeff Goldblum for 90 minutes in this movie just being like as good as he was in The Fly, and it still would not have saved this movie.
No. The movie was just it was too much going on. And then the ending when they're like, let's go after them. That was one time where I was like, oh, I guess that's kind of cool, but the movie sucked, so I don't care.
So finishing out the next 3, and again, no particular order for these, was Suicide Squad, Batman v Superman, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even have Ninja Turtles on there, but that's a good one. I should have had that on there. Um, yeah, so Batman v Superman was probably by far the biggest disappointment, you know.
Not for me, because I knew it was gonna suck.
Yeah, but still, it's like this is the first time that these two juggernauts are on the screen together. And so whether I knew it was going to be disappointing or not, it still didn't, erase the fact that fuck, we got this movie, but it's so
Yeah, but that's
bad.
like, saying, that's like reading like a Yelp review, right? And everything, and these, okay, so Yelp reviews are everything that you're hearing pre-release date of Batman v Superman. You're seeing all this shit, you're reading all this stuff about how disarray the whole company is and shit like that. And then you read, okay, so you read all these Yelp reviews, and then you go to this restaurant and it sucks. And you're like, that was really disappointing. Really, was it disappointing, or was it really just expected? Because
Yeah,
you can't get, like, everything leading up to that movie told you it was going to suck. It had Zack Snyder attached to it, right? It had the same writers from Zack Snyder from Man of Steel. You knew from the trailer something was wrong because it just didn't seem right. And then they just kept releasing article after article about how great the movie's going to be, how amazed you're going to see that we fixed the issues from Man of Steel. I've never once heard, like, even George Lucas, who you kill for the prequels, he didn't fucking apologize for the prequels.
nope.
He's like, well, you know what? You can't please everybody. And that he left it at that. DC was like this, like, child who just
Butt
was
hurt.
yearning for his dad's love and just saying, no, look, seriously, I made this baking soda vinegar volcano just for you. Please love it and love me.
So in other words,
Because
if I
don't
okay,
forget that that's what DC did, leading up to that release, is all these articles coming out just apologizing and saying, we did this, we fixed it. You're going to love Superman even more, or whatever. So to me, it was not disappointing. It was just expected. What I didn't expect was how badly the critics would kill it. That was
yeah,
probably the only surprise.
yeah,
Because I remember walking out of that movie thinking, oh, that wasn't as big a piece of shit as I thought it was going to be.
right.
It's still terrible. It's still a big loaf of shit, just not a big loaf of shit without corn.
Well, so
You know,
that hurts on the way out. Um, yeah,
that should be on the next poster for Justice League.
right. um, yeah, it's funny going back and listening to our review of that movie because we kind of both were surprised that we were kind of semi entertained when we got out of there like, oh, that was a fun movie. But the problem with that movie is, unlike Civil War, when you watch it over and over, it gets worse and worse and worse as you watch it. It gets so bad that now I think every time we talk on the phone, that movie pops up, that topic pops up, and we bash the shit out of it, and that's not, I don't know, that really bugs me. That movie should have been great. It should have been fucking way up there. That's so exciting. Never got to see this before. It ended up being just a huge letdown. So like, if we're going on Yelp reviews, so Man of Steel is that restaurant that you go to and you have steak and it's really shitty and you leave, and then Batman v Superman is the restaurant going, hey, come back because the steak's really good now.
Because now we added no, because now we added a buffet.
Right, and you go to it, the buffet is disgusting and really shitty put together, and yeah, you got
the lettuce is wilted. The fucking pizza has been sitting there forever. The pot roast is all dried out from the fucking lamps. The seafood has a weird smell.
Yeah, so it's that's was not a good movie. So what else? You had Suicide Squad on there too. Okay, so for all you listeners out there probably know this, is that is our longest podcast of the year. But
it was so goddamn awful.
It was so bad.
Holy shit, is that movie bad?
Yeah, we were just saying, like, if a movie's really good, we review it in like 10 minutes and we're done. We're like, what do we talk about now? But I think that was a longer
podcast than Batman v Superman.
It was.
Because I couldn't believe how bad it was.
It was almost as long as the movie.
Like, as much as we said, like, to me it wasn't expected. I expected what I got from Batman v Superman, even though it was a little bit more entertaining than I thought. I knew I would get a movie that was fucking incoherent, major plot holes, no character development whatsoever. So I got what I expected from Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
Suicide Squad, there was no history behind it other than, it was part of Zack Snyder's DC universe, which in itself should raise red flags. But, again, it had a lot of bad things going early on.
Mm-hmm.
It had the early pictures of the Joker. It had early pictures of Harley Quinn, and it had Will Smith as Deadshot. So a lot of those things didn't jive with me. Actually, Will Smith ended up being the best thing of that movie.
Yes.
Harley Quinn ended up being okay, even though I hated the fact that she was in, like, fucking Daisy Dukes and a t-shirt the entire time in the entire movie, and all she does is swing a bat. There's no reason for her to be on a fucking tactical team. There's really none. There's no reason why she should go save the Earth.
No, you know who the real Suicide Squad is? Rogue One. That's a real Suicide Squad. Everybody on Rogue One had a past of some kind. They did a lot of shitty things, in the rebellion, and they were still fighting. They were fought for a greater cause, and they all fucking died. So that's Suicide Squad right there.
That's kind of a good parallel to tell good storytelling with bad storytelling.
Right.
Yes, it's predetermined that this story is underlying there, and we just never saw it for Rogue One. But at the end of the day, it's still kind of like an ensemble put together bunch of people,
Right.
And it did it really well. Ironically, we were just talking about Magnificent Seven this morning, but that movie did not do well with how it put together the pieces of the Magnificent Seven.
No.
Whereas Rogue One, it kind of seemed to blend a little bit with how they got their certain pieces to go have the story that they had to tell.
Exactly.
So Suicide Squad was a big giant fucking mess. I mean, everything was wrong with this movie. So I have only seen it once. You've seen it.
I've saw it twice. Yeah, I saw the extended edition, and this is the thing I can't stand about DC even more so than everything else too, is that they go, oh, even more like footage, and like, oh, it rounds the movie out, it makes it better. It doesn't, folks. It actually makes it worse. I mean, the shit that they add in the deluxe editions of both Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad does nothing for the story at all. It just adds extra shit. You get more scenes with the Joker, big fucking deal. He has nothing to do with Suicide Squad. He's just some idiot that kind of pops in and out. We've talked about it. Fuck, why are we wasting even more time in this movie? Go listen to the Suicide Squad review. It's an hour and 45 fucking minutes. I don't want to spend another minute.
Here's like a good argument for anybody who just gives DC a pass for whatever. Have you ever heard of a studio try to advertise to you that the movie is better when you get the special edition version than it is in the theatrical release? That what they're actually telling you is, if they said that any sooner, because don't forget they announced the Blu-ray like 1 week after the fucking movie was released, which was unheard of. For Batman v Superman, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, who have you ever heard that happen? That, that, hey, even if you don't like the movie now, you're going to love it when it comes out on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Who the fuck says that?
It's because they're just scared. They're scared shit. They know they've just shoved this thing. They know they've just put it together as quickly as they could. They're playing catch up to Marvel. There's no secret about it. They know that they're behind. And so they're rushing the product out, which is a bummer.
I mean, not that there's been a couple comic book movies that should have been nominated for an Oscar, but just think about that for a second and be like, Braveheart winning the Oscar. Like, well, they gave it the Oscar for Best Picture because they saw the special edition Blu-ray or DVD and thought it was much better than the other, movies.
There was more
fucking happen.
There was more kilts in this movie.
The movie that you offer to us that we have to pay $10 to go fucking see. You're literally telling me that I should not go to the theater and just save my money when you say shit like that to me. Now you've done it to two movies. You've done it to Batman v Superman and you've done it to Suicide Squad, where you've told me as a fucking paying customer that the movie that I'm going to release into theaters that you're going to have to pay $10 for is shittier than the version that I'm going to get 6 months later.
Well,
on Blu-ray.
What's funny is that, and they'd be incorrect because the Blu-ray is actually shittier than the theatrical version. So that didn't make too much sense.
You understand how many forums have we been on where these fucking asshats are sitting there saying that the special edition of Batman v Superman makes the movie better?
Yeah.
How? In what way?
Oh, because Jenna
Malone
was
Malone's in it, so
yeah.
she can have some stupid dialogue with Lois Lane about a bullet. How does that make that fucking movie better?
Yeah.
How does that answer the question that there is no fucking reason on what you've shown me between Man of Steel and Batman v Superman? There's no fucking reason why Superman would sacrifice himself at the end of this movie. In fact, everything points to the exact opposite of what you've shown me.
Yeah.
Everything. His most influential people, even Lois at a certain point in time, tells him to fucking bail. Tells him, no, don't fucking do it. Don't save anybody. Let those kids on the bus die. There is nothing that says Superman should fucking sacrifice himself at the end of that movie.
Yeah.
But because Jenna Malone's in the movie, it explains that.
I can't stand the Superman that they have right now. Poor Henry Cavill. He's got the worst job in the world. And now we've had two movies with brooding Superman. Now we're going to have a third movie where he's actually in a black suit. So it's going to go even more dark and brooding.
Yeah, if you thought Superman was fucking emo before, wait till you see his mullet and his black suit. The only thing that's going to be missing is his spiked wristband from Spencer Gifts.
Spiked collar.
Yeah. Or from Hot Topic.
Hot Topic, yeah. The steel-toed boots. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't.
God.
Fucking.
Now I'm picturing Superman as Kiss.
Star Child. Yeah. He's all sticking his tongue out. He's like, rock on, bitch. Party all night.
He's gonna have the black hair and the black leather jacket. He's gonna be a mix between like Gene Simmons and fucking Neo.
Oh man.
Because I want my
That's-
Superman in a trench coat.
Yeah, that's what I want. No, that Superman was done so well on Supergirl this year. It was really so nice to see that Superman
Yeah,
enjoying what he's doing, and
the writers actually got Superman. They understood that, like, hey, this guy's the most powerful person on Earth, and he knows it, but he doesn't care that he is that,
right.
and he understands like that. He understands the levity of being Superman, and actually likes helping people. Whereas this Superman's like, oh fuck, Dad, do I really have to do this?
I've only been Superman for 18 months. Do I have to keep? Do I have to go save more people? Like he's been
And then
Superman for
everybody's telling
18
him
months.
no.
18 months. Give me a break. I mean,
Well, if he did it any longer, he would turn into Batman, and then he would just start killing people, and then Batman would be justified for wanting to fucking fight him in the first place.
oh man, fuck those movies. So I
Now I'm picturing like Ben Affleck saying that one line in Batman v Superman where he's like, he brought the war here. I'm like, no, he really didn't. He was a fucking infant. And if you were actually the world's greatest detective like you're supposed to be, you would have found that out before like you wanted to murder somebody.
he was an
because-
infant.
Yeah, he was a fucking infant. He really didn't bring it here. He was a helpless child, Batman. And maybe you should be more of a detective than a fucking murderer.
Yeah, here you have the greatest detective and you have the greatest reporter, and they both don't know jack and shit.
And they're shitty at their jobs. They're shitty at their titles.
Yeah.
Clark Kent's a mild-mannered reporter, doesn't know who the fuck Bruce Wayne is. Right?
Yeah.
And the world's greatest detective wants to just go fucking murder somebody without doing some research first. Fucking idiot.
That should be the tagline of the movie. That's
Yeah, that
nailed
should have
it.
been the tagline. The world's greatest, the mild-mannered reporter doesn't know the world's worst detective.
Boom. Go watch it.
Dawn of Justice.
Go watch it, and in a week we'll have a R-rated Blu-ray that's going to make it even better.
Yes, more Jenna Malone.
But
Or
so,
wait a minute, is Jenna Fisher's the one from The Office, right?
Yes.
That's the deluxe special edition, where they have Jenna Malone and Jenna Fisher in the same lab talking about
Breaking the fourth wall.
while talking about the bullet.
Right. Because the bullet is everything. The bullet makes the
Yeah.
movie. It should have its own character, the bullet.
Oh,
Anyway,
fuck those movies.
okay.
Seriously, they take up so much of our goddamn podcasts. It's fucking bullshit. If we should be getting money from anybody, it should be fucking from DC that we keep mentioning their shitty movies. 'Cause they're literally under the impression that no bad press is all press is bad press is good press. Some
That's
shit.
right. That's right. That because people are going to be listening, who have never seen the movie, going was it really that bad? Did they go watch it? Yeah, it's because of us. All right, screw that. So I have some other. So I had X-Men. I had Independence Day also on the list. I also had Batman. I also had Suicide Squad. I threw on there The Huntsman: Winter's War. I don't know why I watched that movie, but oh my god, it's
Oh my god, that was so fucking bad. I didn't even want to watch it.
I didn't go to the
From the
theater and
trailers.
watch. I watched it at home, but it was
okay.
it was bad. Jason Bourne was a huge disappointment. So I have that in my list. Batman: The Killing Joke. That was another one where I was so excited when they announced this. I was so excited when they got Conroy, Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill to come back out of retirement to do the voices. That to me was amazing. I thought, oh wow, this is one of the ultimate comic books, and now they're gonna finally fucking do it.
Plus, DC animation is way better than Marvel.
And
So it
DC
had
and
everything
DC
going for it.
DC animation's better than the DC movies by far. And
Yeah, it had everything going for it. There was no reason for us to think this movie was going to not be good.
Batman: The Killing Joke is you catch the football on the 1 yard line and you run it all the way back, and then you trip on the 5 yard line on the opposite side and
Or
drop
you're
the fucking ball.
celebrating,
Yeah, you're
10
celebrating
yards
early.
too early.
Yeah, you're
And
celebrating. You
fucking,
spike the ball.
spike it at the 1 yard line.
Yeah, it is. But probably worse than that though. It's bad. The comic book is only like what 20, 30 pages or something like that, and so
Yeah.
I would have been happy with a 30-minute movie. I'm like, just do the material, or make like a, what did I say in the review? I think I said something like, make a movie that has 3 comic books in it, so you have 3 separate stories instead of doing 1 hour and 20-minute movie that, quite frankly, was so bloated and overstuffed with extra bullshit that it just made it ruined the story, completely ruined it.
Yeah, the prologue that they had for Batgirl really messed with the motivation and the substance of what the Killing Joke actually
Yes,
was.
absolutely.
It was all about the Joker. The comic book is really about
His
the
origins,
Joker
right?
trying to well, his origins are in it, but it was really about him trying to prove the reason why they tell the origins in that comic book is because he had one bad fucking day. Yes, he had a shit ton of bad days before that, but he had one really bad fucking day that turned him into the Joker. He's trying to prove to Batman, or has been trying to prove to Batman for years, that if Batman would just fucking kill someone, just
Yeah.
one person, that he would turn into the Joker.
Yep.
So what he's trying to do in that movie, which kind of happens in the Dark Knight movie, what he's trying to do is take Commissioner Gordon and fucking turn him into the Joker, or turn him into something just as bad, that he fucks with him so badly by killing his, or not killing, but by paralyzing Barbara and, you know, basically raping her, and showing it to him in this like fucking rundown amusement park, that he would just turn just as bad, but he doesn't.
Nope.
That's what that's about. Because you added that whole thing with Barbara Gordon and Batman having sex, now it turns into a revenge story that never really happens. That you don't see the end result. You don't get that satisfaction, while subliminally taking away what the Joker was, what the Killing Joke really
Yep.
was about the Joker proving to Batman that if you had a really bad fucking day, you'd go psychotic too.
Yeah, you're
Like
one.
basically the Joker's trying to justify who he is to Batman.
Right. Everybody is one bad day away from becoming just like me, you know, and he's not able to prove it. And Batman even like tells him, he's like, see, you know, the but you're right. All that extra stuff in it really takes away from what the story is about, and that's a real big bummer, because this is one of those premier stories, one of the biggest Batman stories, Joker stories out there, and they completely botched it. And I think a lot of it had to do with, well, it's only just one in one book, so you know we gotta. It's just like The Hobbit. We have to like overflate this thing to take over 3 movies, and it ended up being kind of shitty, you know, because they added all this extra stuff. So,
It did help that they were writing as they were filming too.
oh yeah, I mean, we can go on and on
The
about
Hobbit, not the Killing Joke.
Right, right.
The Hobbit
But
did
the
that.
Killing Joke, you know, I just felt, man, they should just pick 2 or 3 really awesome Batman stories and just made a DVD out of all that. But instead, they overinflated this thing and took away from what it was supposed to be, and that's a bummer. So it got a really low rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and with me, it just really pissed me off, what they did with that story. But what else did I have? Oh, and so if I were to do a number one like worst movie of the year, I definitely would put Warcraft. And I know that I
Oh, I forgot about that. I
yeah
can't believe I left that off my list.
we,
That's
we
how shitty it was.
we earlier this movie's so bad, you guys, that when I took Vic to see it, you know, it was the day before my wedding, and I said, he's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, let's just go see a movie. He's like, well, what do you want to see? I'm like, well, let's just go see Warcraft. And he was like, fuck that, I'm not paying money for that. And I said, no, I'll buy for you. So he's like, he reluctantly went, and we walked out of that movie. That movie was so bad, you guys, that we're like, we're not going to review this ever, because it's just too fucking terrible, and it made us.
And we're
really,
not going to start now.
Nope.
The movie's fucking god
no,
awful.
just know that it sucks really bad. If you want to see the worst movie of the year, according to us, you know, just have someone else rent it for you, because you don't want to waste your dollar.
So the movie is so bad. I completely forgot about that movie when I was writing down the most disappointing movies.
It was the first one I wrote down. I'm like, oh, I got to write this fucking movie down.
And I didn't like remember in the beginning I said there's really no order to it. Now that you've brought up Warcraft, that would be my worst movie that I've seen this year. by far.
And I saw some shitty movies,
makes-
dude. I saw Huntsman.
Yeah.
I saw Alice through the Looking Glass. I saw, movies like that were terrible, but none of them touched even, that took the cake. Warcraft. It's just such a jumbled ass movie.
I mean, there's probably a lot worse movies, but as far as like tentpole type movies or movies that are supposed to be blockbusters or summer movie going, and the amount of money they spent on that movie, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it still made it
so goddamn bad.
It still made a shit ton of money though from overseas, and I assume that they're going to make a sequel, but probably less money put into it. But by God, I mean, you're right. This is like John Carter bad. Like, well, not John Carter bad, but I mean, they spent a lot of money, and it just failed miserably at the box office here in the United States.
If Michael Bay and Zack Snyder had a love child with each other, and that person had a love child with its own sister, that spawn of Satan, like, is this movie.
It's so bad. I mean, look, you go look back in the 80s and you look at a lot of their fantasy type movies. Like one of them always pops at the top of my head is Beastmaster. But Beastmaster, it's not serious. It's a very entertaining, totally cheesy movie, but for whatever fucking it still works. I mean, 30-something years later, it's still a pretty fucking good movie. Like, it's entertaining. There's no value to Warcraft at all. There's really no value to that movie. I love the cutscenes in the video game. I used to play the video game, and I loved the cutscenes were so fucking awesome that I was like, why don't they make an hour-long or hour-and-a-half-long cartoon just with these graphics and this storytelling? It's so fantastic. I'm not even kidding. It's really that good. And so the movie, I think out of curiosity, I just had to go watch it because, I mean, I have some personal reasons as well, but I had to go watch that movie just to see just how bad it was, because I really wanted that movie to fail because it just looks so bad. But when I left there, I was like, wow, like I feel really bad now because that movie was even worse than I thought. But anyway, I feel bad for Duncan Jones.
That's more than I ever want to talk about.
I
ever want to talk about Warcraft.
Yeah, worst movie ever. Anyway, but shit, we got to. I think we saw more. I think we saw a lot more movies. Positively, I said better movies than we did shitty movies. Yeah, definitely. So
very surprising movies too.
Yeah, some really surprising movies that we never thought in a million years we'd ever see or want to see, but ended up being in our top 10, and that's pretty awesome. Next year, we will be doing the most anticipated episode for 2017 movies. That's going to be coming up, so stay tuned for that. We neither one of us have talked to each other about what we have on our list, so when you guys listen to it, that means we're listening to it for the first time as well. So.
So here's to 2016. Hope everybody had a good year. This is our last podcast before the year closes out.
Yes, happy holidays.
2017.
Yes.
The next time we record.
Happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas.
That's right. Today's the first day of Hanukkah.
That's right. So it's across the board. It's a good time to be alive. But yeah, 2016. It's
8 days, right?
It's 8 crazy fucking nights, dude. As Adam Sandler would say.
That's the only way I remember how many nights.
From the Adam Sandler song?
Yeah.
I love that song,
it's still in my head. That song is still in your head.
Oh,
If you actually, when you say 8 crazy nights, you say it like he says it in this song.
When he mentions William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, and he goes, both Jewish. Yeah, it's pretty fucking awesome. So that's episode 60 of Chew on This, a Nerds United podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic.
Until next year, folks, chew on that.
Later.